Jack Wilson stood tall and still outside Buckingham Palace. The sun was hot, but he did not move. His red coat was bright against the palace walls. For 6 years, Jack had been a royal guard. He was very good at his job. Every day, tourists came to take pictures. They tried to make him smile or move, but Jack never broke the rules. Not once. His boss, Captain Harris, often said Jack was the best guard they had. That morning was like any other. Jack woke up early, put on his uniform, and made sure every button shone. His tall black hat sat straight on his head. He marched to his spot and took his place. The summer day brought many visitors. They walked by, pointing and taking pictures. Jack saw it all but kept his eyes forward. The rule was simple. A royal guard does not move, no matter what. Then Jack saw an old man in the crowd. He wore an old military cap with medals. Jack could tell he was a soldier from long ago. The old man walked slowly with a cane. His name was Thomas Green. He was 85 years old and had saved money for years to visit London. Thomas pushed through the crowd to get closer to the palace. He wanted to see the guards up close. The medals on his cap were from the same war Jack's grandfather had fought in. Jack noticed this and felt a connection to the old soldier. Suddenly, a group of young men ran through the crowd. They were loud and not looking where they were going. One of them bumped into Thomas. The old man lost his balance. His cane fell to the ground. Thomas started to fall. Jack saw it all happen. The old man was going to hit the hard ground. No one in the crowd moved to help. They just watched and took pictures. Jack had a choice to make. The rules said he must not move, not for anything. But the old soldier was going to get hurt badly if he fell. In his mind, Jack could hear Captain Harris. A royal guard never leaves his post. Never. But he could also hear his grandfather telling stories about soldiers helping each other, no matter what. The old man was halfway to the ground. His face showed fear and pain. His medals gleamed in the sun. Jack made his decision. For the first time in 6 years, Jack Wilson, Royal Guard of Buckingham Palace, moved from his spot. The crowd gasped. Phones came out to record. Jack took 3 quick steps and caught Thomas just before he hit the ground. The old soldier looked up in surprise. Their eyes met. Thomas saw the young guard's face, no longer frozen in duty but alive with concern. It was a moment that would change both their lives forever. "Thank you, son," Thomas said in a weak voice. His hand shook as he tried to stand. Jack held the old soldier steady. He knew he had broken the biggest rule. But seeing Thomas safe made it worth it. "Are you hurt, sir?" Jack asked quietly. Thomas shook his head. "Just my pride." But then his face turned pale. He grabbed his chest and gasped for air. Jack knew something was very wrong. The old man was not just tired. He was sick. Jack lowered Thomas gently to the ground and took off his tall guard hat to put under the old man's head. People in the crowd started to whisper. Some took pictures. Others backed away. A woman shouted, "Someone call an ambulance." Jack pulled out his radio. This was another rule broken. Guards were only to use radios for official palace business. "Medical emergency at North Gate," Jack said into the radio. "Elderly veteran needs help now." Captain Harris's voice came back angry. "Wilson, what are you doing? Get back to your post." Jack ignored the order. He stayed with Thomas, checking his pulse the way he learned in army training. It was fast and weak. The old man's breathing was not right. "Hang on, sir," Jack said. "Help is coming." He noticed the medals again. One was very rare. "3rd Battalion," Jack asked, pointing to the medal. Thomas nodded slowly. "How did you know?" "My grandfather was 3rd Battalion too," Jack said. "He had the same medal." Thomas tried to smile, but pain crossed his face. "We were good men," he whispered. "The best." Within minutes, palace guards rushed over. Behind them was Captain Harris, his face red with anger. "Wilson," he shouted, What is the meaning of this? Before Jack could answer, Thomas spoke up. This boy saved my life. His voice was weak but clear. A good soldier knows when orders matter less than people. The medical team arrived and quickly put Thomas on a stretcher. Heart attack. One of them said, "We need to move fast." As they took Thomas away, the old soldier grabbed Jack's hand. "Thank you for not letting an old warrior fall," he said. Then the ambulance doors closed. Captain Harris stood in front of Jack, shaking with anger. 6 years of perfect service, he said, and you throw it all away for a stranger. Jack stood tall. Not a stranger, sir, a fellow soldier. Report to headquarters, Captain Harris ordered. Now. As Jack marched away, the crowd parted to let him through. Some people clapped. Others took pictures. Jack kept his face forward, his back straight. He knew his career might be over, but he also knew he had done the right thing. What Jack didn't know was that someone had recorded everything on their phone. And that video was already spreading across the internet. The next morning, Jack sat in a small room at guard headquarters. 3 senior officers sat across from him. Their faces were serious. On the table between them was Jack's record book. It showed 6 years of perfect service. "Guard Wilson," the lead officer said, "you left your post without permission. You broke the most important rule of the Royal Guard. What do you have to say?" Jack stood up straight. "I saw a fellow soldier in danger, sir. I acted as I thought right." The officer frowned. "The rules are clear. No guard leaves their post, for any reason." "With respect, sir," Jack said, "I believe some things are more important than rules." The officers looked at each other. This was not the answer they expected. Usually, guards who broke rules begged to keep their jobs. "You understand you may be dismissed from service?" the second officer asked. Jack nodded. "Yes, sir. I understand." The third officer, an older man with many medals, leaned forward. "The old man you helped. Tell me about his medals." Jack described the medals he had seen on Thomas's cap. When he mentioned the 3rd Battalion medal, the older officer raised his eyebrows. "That's a rare one," the older officer said. "Not many of those men left." Before Jack could answer, the door opened. A young guard rushed in with a tablet. "Sirs, you need to see this." On the screen was a video. It showed Jack leaving his post to help Thomas. It also showed him helping during a heart attack. The video had millions of views already. The comments were all supporting Jack. The young guard spoke quickly. "It's everywhere, sirs, and the palace has received thousands of messages. People are calling him the Royal Guard hero." The 3 officers watched the video in silence. When it ended, they asked Jack to wait outside. Jack stood in the hallway for what felt like hours. He thought about his future. If he lost this job, what would he do? He had always wanted to be a Royal Guard, but he still believed he had made the right choice. Finally, the door opened. The older officer motioned for Jack to come back in. "Guard Wilson," the lead officer said, "what you did was against the rules." He paused. "But sometimes a soldier must make hard choices." The older officer spoke next. "The palace has received a call from the hospital. Thomas Green is doing well. He asked about you." Jack felt relief wash over him. At least the old soldier was safe. "We have decided," the lead officer continued, "that you will not be dismissed." Jack tried not to show his surprise. "However, there must be consequences. You will be suspended without pay for 2 weeks." Jack nodded. "Thank you, sir." As he turned to leave, the older officer added, "And Wilson, the Queen has asked to meet you." Jack froze. The Queen herself wanted to meet him. This was unheard of. Outside headquarters, Jack found reporters waiting. Cameras flashed as he walked by. His phone was full of messages from family and friends who had seen the video. Jack didn't want attention. He had only done what felt right. But now his simple act had become something much bigger. A week later, Jack walked into the hospital. He carried flowers and wore his regular clothes, not his guard uniform. He asked at the desk for Thomas Green's room. The nurse smiled when she heard the name. "Room 305, she said. "He's been waiting for you." Jack took the elevator to the 3rd floor. His heart beat fast. What would he say to the man who had changed his life? He found room 305 and knocked softly. A voice called, "Come in." Thomas sat up in bed. He looked much better than the last time Jack had seen him. Color had returned to his face. Next to his bed were cards and flowers from well-wishers. "There he is," Thomas said with a smile. "The guard who can't follow rules." Jack smiled back. "How are you feeling, sir?" "Better every day," Thomas said. "The doctors say I'll be out soon. All thanks to you." Jack put the flowers on the table. "I'm glad I was there." Thomas pointed to a chair. "Sit down, son. Tell me what happened after they took me away." Jack sat and told Thomas about his suspension. He also mentioned the meeting with the Queen that would happen the next day. "The Queen?" Thomas's eyes grew wide. "That's quite an honor." Jack nodded. "I'm nervous about it." Thomas leaned forward. "Can I tell you a story?" When Jack nodded, Thomas continued, 60 years ago, I served in the same battalion as your grandfather. We were in a bad spot, surrounded by enemy forces." Jack listened closely. His grandfather had died before Jack was born. He knew very little about his time in the army. "Your grandfather broke the rules that day too," Thomas said. "Our captain ordered us to hold position, but your grandfather saw a chance to get help. He ran 5 miles through enemy territory to reach our allies." Thomas's eyes grew distant with memory. "He saved 30 men that day, including me." Jack felt a lump in his throat. "I never knew that story." "Some rules are meant to be broken," Thomas said, "when lives are at stake, when it matters most." He reached for a small box on his bedside table. "I want you to have this." Inside the box was the 3rd Battalion medal, the same one Jack had seen on Thomas's cap. "Sir, I can't take this," Jack said. Thomas closed Jack's hand around the medal. "Your grandfather would be proud of you. I'm proud of you too." As Jack left the hospital, he held the medal tight. His grandfather had broken the rules to save lives. Now Jack had done the same. Back at his small apartment, Jack found more reporters waiting. Everyone wanted to talk to the guard who had broken the rules. But Jack just wanted to be left alone. Inside, he opened his laptop. He had hundreds of messages, some from other guards, some from veterans, all of them supporting what he had done. One message stood out. It was from Captain Harris. "Report to HQ at 800 tomorrow. Before your palace visit. We need to talk." Jack closed his laptop and looked at the medal in his hand. Tomorrow would bring more challenges, but tonight he felt at peace with his choice. The next morning, Jack arrived at headquarters exactly at 8 o'clock. He wore his full uniform, perfectly pressed. The medal from Thomas was pinned inside his pocket, close to his heart. Captain Harris waited in his office. His face was serious, but not angry like before. "Sit down, Wilson," he said, pointing to a chair. Jack sat, his back straight. He expected more lectures about rules. "I owe you an apology," Captain Harris said. Jack tried not to show his surprise. "I was too harsh that day." "Sir," Jack wasn't sure he had heard correctly. Captain Harris sighed. "I've been a guard for 25 years. I've never broken the rules." He looked out the window. "But I've never been tested the way you were." He opened a drawer and pulled out a file. "Did you know I served with your father?" Jack shook his head. His father had died when Jack was 10. He rarely talked about him. "He was a good man," Captain Harris said. "Like you, he always did what he thought was right." He pushed the file toward Jack. "This came from the palace this morning. The Queen has requested that you be her personal guard during her public garden party next week." Jack opened the file. Inside was an official letter with the royal seal. It was true. The highest honor a guard could receive. "But my suspension," Jack began, "is over," Captain Harris finished. By order of the Queen herself. Jack didn't know what to say. Just days ago, he thought his career was over. Now this. Thank you, sir, he finally managed. Captain Harris stood up. The car for the palace is waiting. Don't keep Her Majesty waiting. Outside, a royal car waited. The driver opened the door for Jack. As he got in, he saw people pointing. They recognized him from the video. The drive to Buckingham Palace took only minutes. Jack had been there hundreds of times before. But never like this. Never to meet the Queen. A palace staff member met him at a side door. This way, Guard Wilson. They walked through halls Jack had never seen before. Past paintings hundreds of years old. Past rooms where kings and queens had made history. Finally, they stopped at a small sitting room. Wait here, the staff member said. Her Majesty will be with you shortly. Jack stood alone in the room. His heart pounded. What would he say to the Queen? What would she say to him? The door opened. A small woman in a blue dress walked in. Jack bowed low, as he had been trained. Guard Wilson, the Queen said in a clear voice. Please, sit down. Jack sat carefully on the edge of a chair. The Queen sat across from him. I've watched the video, she said. Most impressive. Thank you, Your Majesty, Jack said. The Queen looked at him closely. Do you know why we have rules for the Royal Guard, Mr. Wilson? Jack thought carefully before answering. For discipline, Your Majesty. And tradition. Yes, she agreed, but also to remind us all that some things stand firm, no matter what changes in the world. She paused. Yet there are times when even the strongest rules must bend. She reached for a small box on the table between them. This is for you. Jack opened the box. Inside was a medal he had never seen before. It was silver with the royal crest. This is the Royal Medal of Compassion, the Queen explained. It is rarely given, only to those who show extraordinary care for others, even at great personal risk. Jack was speechless. This was an honor beyond anything he had imagined. Wear it proudly, the Queen said. And know that true service sometimes means knowing when rules matter less than people. The news of Jack's medal spread quickly. By that evening, his face was on every news show. Royal Guard hero honored by Queen read the headlines. Back at the guards' barracks, things had changed. The other guards, who had kept their distance during Jack's suspension, now wanted to talk to him. Some asked for the whole story. Others just wanted to shake his hand. One young guard named Ryan asked the question many were thinking. Weren't you scared to break the rules? Jack thought about it. I was more scared of what would happen if I didn't. That night, Jack called his mother. She had been worried since the video first appeared online. I'm so proud of you, she said when he told her about meeting the Queen. Your father would be too. Captain Harris said he knew Dad, Jack said. His mother was quiet for a moment. Yes, they served together before your father joined the police. Her voice grew soft. Did I ever tell you how your father died? Jack knew the basic story. His father had been a police officer killed on duty, but his mother rarely talked about the details. He broke the rules too, she said. He was off duty, driving home. He saw a car crash and stopped to help. She paused. He pulled 2 children from the burning car, then went back for their mother. Jack held his breath. He had never heard this part of the story. The car exploded before he could get out again, his mother finished. His captain later told me that officers are supposed to wait for the fire department in situations like that. But your father couldn't wait when lives were at stake. Jack felt tears in his eyes. I didn't know. You're more like him than you realize, his mother said. He would be so proud of the man you've become. After the call, Jack sat looking at his 2 medals, the one from Thomas and the one from the Queen. He thought about his father and grandfather, men who did what was right, even when it was hard. The next morning, Jack returned to duty. Not at his usual post, but at the main gate where more senior guards worked. Captain Harris had promoted him. Tourists still tried to make him smile or move, But now many of them recognized him. They pointed and whispered. Some even thanked him. At noon, a school group arrived. The teacher, a middle-aged woman, brought the children close to where Jack stood guard. "This is Guard Wilson," she told the children. "He's the one who helped save the old soldier. Remember the video we watched?" The children nodded, their eyes wide as they looked at Jack. "He showed us that being brave sometimes means making hard choices," the teacher continued, "and that helping others is always the right thing to do." Jack kept his face forward, following the rules as always, but inside, he felt a warm glow of pride. Later that day, a palace official approached Jack. "The old soldier, Mr. Green, is here to see you," he said. "The captain says you can have a 10-minute break." Jack found Thomas waiting in a small room near the gate. The old man looked much better than when Jack had last seen him. He stood without his cane, and his face had good color. "Look at you," Thomas said with a smile. "At the main gate now, moving up in the world." Jack smiled back. "How are you feeling, sir?" "Doctor says I'm doing well," Thomas replied. "I wanted to thank you in person, and to see you in your glory." They talked for a few minutes about Jack's meeting with the Queen and his new position. Then Thomas grew serious. "I have something to tell you," he said, "something I learned after you visited me in the hospital." Jack waited, curious. "I made some calls to old army friends," Thomas said. "Ask about your grandfather." He took a deep breath. "Jack, I think I was rescued by your grandfather not once, but twice." "Twice?" Jack asked. He sat down across from Thomas, all thoughts of guard duty forgotten. Thomas nodded. "The first time was the story I told you about, when he ran for help." He leaned forward. "But there was another time, near the end of the war. Our unit was trapped in a village. Enemy soldiers everywhere." Jack listened closely. Each word was like a gift, bringing his grandfather closer. "We were hiding in a church," Thomas continued. "Your grandfather was the scout. He went out to find a safe path." The old man's eyes grew distant with memory. "He didn't come back for hours. We thought he was dead." "What happened?" Jack asked. "He finally returned with blood on his uniform, not his own." Thomas paused. "He had found an enemy guard post. Took out 3 men by himself so we could escape." The old man shook his head. "Against orders, of course. Our captain had told him only to observe, not engage." Jack thought about how his own act of breaking the rules seemed small compared to his grandfather's bravery. "The captain was furious," Thomas said, "but we all made it out alive because of him." He reached into his pocket and pulled out an old photograph. "I found this after you visited. Thought you might want it." It was a black and white picture of a group of soldiers. They stood in front of a damaged building, arms around each other's shoulders. "That's your grandfather," Thomas said, pointing to a tall man in the middle. "And that's me, next to him." Jack stared at the photo. His grandfather looked so young, barely older than Jack was now. His face was dirty, but he was smiling. "He was a good man," Thomas said. "One of the best I ever knew." Before Jack could respond, a palace official returned. "Time to return to your post, Guard Wilson." Jack stood and carefully put the photo in his pocket. "Thank you for this," he said to Thomas, "and for telling me about him." Thomas rose too. "Your family has a habit of being in the right place at the right time," he said with a smile, "and of knowing when rules matter less than people." They shook hands. As Jack turned to go, Thomas added, "I'll be at the garden party next week. The Queen invited me too." Back at his post, Jack stood tall and still, but his mind was full of stories, of his grandfather running through enemy lines, of his father rushing into a burning car, of himself catching an old soldier before he fell. 3 generations of men who knew when to break the rules. The week passed quickly. Jack's story continued to spread. People recognized him on the street when he was off duty. A children's book writer asked if she could tell his story. A movie producer called about rights to his life. Jack said no to all of them. He didn't want fame. He had only done what felt right. The day of the Queen's garden party arrived. Jack put on his best uniform. The medal from the Queen shone on his chest. The one from Thomas remained close to his heart, pinned inside his pocket. At the palace, he reported to Captain Harris. "Ready for duty, sir." The captain nodded. "The Queen has requested you stand near her during the event." This was another great honor. Usually only the most senior guards stood near the Queen. "Yes, sir," Jack said. "Thank you." The garden party began at noon. Hundreds of guests filled the palace grounds. Jack took his position near the Queen's tea tent. He stood still and tall, just as he had been trained. But something felt different now. He still followed the rules, still did his duty. But he knew that someday, if needed, he would break the rules again. Because some things were more important than rules. The garden party was in full swing. People in fine clothes walked across the green lawns. Music played softly. The smell of tea and cakes filled the air. Jack stood at his post near the Queen's tent. From here, he could see the whole garden. He spotted Thomas sitting at a table with other veterans. The old soldier gave him a small nod. Near the palace, Jack saw a familiar face. Ryan, the young guard who had asked if Jack was scared to break the rules. Ryan stood stiffly at his post, eyes forward. Then something caught Jack's attention. A man in a dark suit was moving quickly through the crowd. Something about him seemed wrong. He kept looking around nervously. His hand was inside his jacket. Jack's training kicked in. He watched the man carefully. Most people at the party moved slowly, stopping to talk. This man was different. He was heading straight for the Queen's tent. Without moving from his spot, Jack pressed the small radio button on his uniform. "Possible security threat," he said quietly. "Man in dark suit approaching from the west side." Captain Harris's voice came back immediately. "We see him. Stand by." Jack watched as security guards began to move toward the man, but they were still far away, and the man was getting closer. The man pulled his hand from his jacket. Jack saw something metal, a knife. The Queen was only steps away, talking to guests. She didn't see the danger. Jack had seconds to decide. Follow the rules and stay at his post, or move again, like he had for Thomas. This time, there was no choice at all. Jack stepped forward just as the man rushed toward the Queen. In 3 quick steps, Jack was between them. The man looked surprised for a moment, then angry. He raised the knife. Jack caught the man's wrist. They struggled. Jack could feel the man's strength, pushed by some inner rage. The knife came closer to Jack's face. Then other guards were there. They pulled the man away, forced him to the ground. The knife fell harmlessly on the grass. It was over in seconds. Guests who had been nearby were quickly moved away. The Queen was safely taken inside the palace. Jack stood breathing hard, his uniform now wrinkled from the struggle. Captain Harris rushed over. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Jack shook his head. "No, sir." "Good work, Wilson," the captain said. "You spotted him before anyone else did." More security arrived. The man was taken away in handcuffs. Later, Jack would learn he was a former employee of the palace who had been fired for stealing. He had come back seeking revenge. The garden party continued, though with more security present. The Queen returned after a short time, showing the guests that all was well. As the event ended, Captain Harris found Jack again. "Her Majesty wants to see you now." Jack followed the captain to a small room in the palace. The Queen was there, along with 2 security officers. "Guard Wilson," she said when he entered. "It seems I am in your debt again." Jack bowed. "Just doing my duty, Your Majesty." The Queen looked at him closely. "You have a habit of being in the right place at the right time." "I was just watching the crowd, Mom," Jack said. Something didn't seem right about him. "Your instincts are good," one of the security officers said. "We checked the footage. You spotted him well before our regular security did." The Queen nodded. "Captain Harris tells me you're one of his best guards. Yet you seem to have a talent for knowing when to break formation." Jack wasn't sure what to say. Was this praise or criticism? "I believe," the Queen continued, "that such instincts should not be wasted at a static post." She looked at the security officers. "Wouldn't you agree?" The lead officer nodded. "We could use someone like him in the close protection team." Jack's heart jumped. The close protection team was an elite group of guards who traveled with the royal family. It was a position many guards worked years to achieve. "Would that interest you, Guard Wilson?" the Queen asked. "It would be an honor, Your Majesty," Jack said. As he left the palace that evening, Jack felt as if he were walking in a dream. In just 2 weeks, his life had changed completely. From nearly losing his job to being offered one of the highest positions a guard could hold. At the gate, he found Thomas waiting. "I saw what happened," the old soldier said. "Quick thinking. Just did what needed doing," Jack replied. Thomas smiled. "Like father, like son, like grandfather." He patted Jack's shoulder. "They're watching over you, those two. And they're proud." As they walked together toward the street, Jack thought about the strange path that had brought him here, all because he had broken the rules to help an old soldier in need. 6 months passed. Jack's life had changed in ways he never imagined. As part of the close protection team, he traveled with the royal family. He went to countries he had only read about before. He met presidents and prime ministers. But the biggest change was in how he saw his job. Before, being a guard meant following rules perfectly. Now, he understood that protecting people sometimes meant making quick decisions, trusting his instincts. Today, Jack was back at Buckingham Palace. The Queen was hosting a special event, a ceremony to honor veterans from Thomas's old unit. There were only 5 of them left now. Jack stood near the door as the old soldiers arrived. Thomas came last, walking slowly but without his cane. He smiled when he saw Jack. "Look at you," Thomas said. "All grown up and important now." Jack grinned. "Hardly. Just doing my job." They walked together to the ceremony room. Other guards nodded respectfully to Jack as he passed. His story was now part of guard training. New recruits learned about the guard who broke the rules to save a life. The ceremony was simple but moving. The Queen presented each veteran with a special medal. She spoke about duty, sacrifice, and the bonds that connect soldiers across generations. When it was Thomas's turn, he stepped forward proudly. The Queen pinned the medal on his chest. Then she said something that made the old soldier look at Jack with surprise. After the ceremony, Thomas found Jack. "The Queen told me about your new assignment," he said. "Teaching at the Royal Guard Academy." Jack nodded. "I start next month. Just part-time while I continue my regular duties." "Teaching what?" Thomas asked. "A new course," Jack explained, "called Judgment in Action, about when to follow rules strictly and when to use your own judgment." Thomas laughed. "Well, you're certainly qualified to teach that." Later, as the veterans prepared to leave, Thomas pulled Jack aside. "I have something for you," he said. He handed Jack a small box. "Open it later." That evening, in his apartment, Jack opened the box. Inside was a medal he didn't recognize. It looked very old. A note from Thomas explained, "This belonged to your grandfather. It was never officially awarded because of the circumstances. We all chipped in to have it made for him. After he died, it came back to me for safekeeping. Now it's yours." The medal was simple. On the back were words engraved by hand, "To John Wilson, who knew when rules mattered less than people." From the men of 3rd Battalion. Jack held the medal tightly. 3 generations, 3 medals, each earned by knowing when to follow your heart instead of the rules. The next day, Jack went to the Royal Guard Academy to prepare for his new teaching role. The commander showed him the classroom where he would teach. "We've never had a course like this before," the commander said. "It's quite a change in our approach." Jack nodded. "The world changes. We need to prepare guards for the real challenges they'll face." On the desk was a course book, freshly printed. Jack opened it to the first page. There was a quote there, one he had chosen himself. True service comes from the heart, not just from following rules. A good guard knows the difference. Below the quote was a picture. It showed Jack catching Thomas that first day when everything changed. Next to it was the old photo of his grandfather with his unit. And beside that, a newspaper clipping about his father saving children from a burning car. 3 men, 3 generations, all connected by one idea. Some things matter more than rules. As Jack prepared his first lesson, he thought about what he would tell his students. About duty and discipline, about tradition and rules, about when to stand firm and when to step forward. He would tell them about an old soldier who fell and changed a young guard's life, about how small acts of courage can echo across generations, and about how, sometimes, the bravest thing is not to follow the rules, but to follow your heart. Because in the end, this was the greatest lesson Jack had learned. We are judged not by how well we follow rules, but by how well we serve others when it